What's going on, Alex? Just starting up the stream now. Welcome everybody to this fine morning. Hopefully it's beautiful wherever you are, or afternoon, or night, depending on where you are at around the world. And we are just about to go live. Welcome everybody, I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PC and tech. If you are interested in asking any questions about your PC builds, or you're thinking of upgrading your GPU or your CPU or anything else in that matter, feel free to ask, as this is an open chat. I do talk to everyone here. So today I do have a topic that I want to bring up to everybody out there, and that AMD actually surprisingly made a new processor for their Zen 4 for their Zen 4, or for the AMD Ryzen 5500 X3D, which is quite a bit of a surprise. It seems AMD is keeping it alive and well. I shouldn't say Zen 4, it's actually Zen 3, but they're keeping it live and well, and it's really cheap. In fact, it's only $250 to be able to get your hands on it. And it's based on the same concept as the 9700F, where it has about 8 cores. And I think it's about, or it might be about like 6 to 8 cores, probably like about 12 threads or something like that. But I could take a look deeper into the specifications, but I do find it a bit interesting that AMD is planning to keep it alive. Mostly, it seems that it's been spread more amongst the whole Latin America side, and I'm pretty sure it'll probably be more distributed throughout. And if anybody is still on a older chipset and is thinking of upgrading to an X3D chipset, this is a good opportunity too. And all you would have to do is more than likely just update the BIOS, which seems to be interesting. We do know the fact of the matter is that AMD is planning on releasing their new processors within the next year or so. And when they do, it seems that there are motherboards that have been kind of leaking information about new BIOS updates. They haven't quite said exactly what the CPU names are, but they do mention that they are future CPUs that they are built for. So that way, when you do install them, that they will also have compatibility, whether you're on a X670E or on an X870E or a B650 or a B850, depending on whichever motherboard that you're on. I do have to also bring up that Newegg has a excellent deal that is going on, which I got to share with you guys. For anyone that is looking to build a PC, I mean, they have some really, really great deals, which I got to share right here. As if we go further down here, you can see that it says AMD's Ryzen 7 9800 X3D, the 9000 series. It seems that it does come with a free SSD now. So before, originally, when you were to get the 9800 X3D, this would just be the flat price. But now they include an SSD with the purchase. Now the SSD that they do have with this AMD Ryzen 9800 X3D is, let me see where I can find it, right here, Kingston MV3, the M.2 2280 1TB PCIe 4. So it's a nice little additional bonus if you are planning to upgrade or do some sort of build. And they don't only have just a deal on just the processor itself, but they also have great deals on such as motherboard combos now. It seems that they're trying to be a little bit more competitive now, especially up against somebody like Micro Center. If you don't have a Micro Center near you, these are also excellent options to go for. Now, another really good deal that they do have is this one right here. Yeah, it sucks that there isn't any Micro Center in England. Hopefully they do become more international. That would be great for them if they did. And this one's the ASUS ROG Strix B858 Gaming. It comes with the motherboard, the processor, and it also comes with the SSD. So you already have 3 major components already for your build, and all you really would need is just a cooler, a GPU, and some RAM. Of course, a power supply and the case, but those would be all you need after just picking up a kit like this. Back then, what they would call kits like this would be bare bone kits, and you just put these kits together yourself, and you would just put together the parts that you would like with it. Now, I kind of think it's funny how they listed this. It's under on AMD side, and it says Intel LGA 17. That's something they gotta fix right there. But this is going to be strictly for anything that is for AM4, so AM5. So if you are building a PC, this is a great start off, especially if you want a all-white build. Now, they do have other options where they do have, say, a ASRock X870E. Of course, I'm sure you heard about the different issues with ASRock. And the current issues that they were having was that they realized that it was their BIOS that was causing these processors to end up burning up. And this new BIOS update has allegedly fixed it. But so far, not really any big issues have come out of the BIOS update. Seems like it's calmed down, so it's no longer just sockets that were dusty. So now if they do have this deal, if you're more looking for a stealth build or a more darker build, not really a stealth build because obviously this is all RGB here. Now they all do have USB 4. They do have 2.5 gigabit connections. I mean 5 gigabit connections since they updated to the new X870E boards. And it does also come with NVMe on this. And it looks like they actually even come with RAM, which is really nice. So you have most of your components there. All you really would need is just a GPU, a power supply, and just a case. And you guys would be pretty much set with it. Yeah, well, I don't trust sending anything outside of the US right now. Sorry to tell you, Oreki. But that's what the deals are for these Shellshockers, and there's so much more. I do have it down in the description box down below if you are interested in taking a look at any of the deals. And there's not just motherboards, processors. They do also have laptops if you're looking for something like that. I wonder if they... I don't think they sell the ROG Ally on Newegg, but it'd be nice if they did. That's something that I'm personally excited. I'm sure everybody else out there is pretty excited for this Xbox ROG Ally to be released. When that does happen, there are going to be several changes. Now, with the base model of the ROG Xbox Ally, the one without the X where it's all white, that's practically going to be very similar to the ROG Ally that's already out there as of now, but not the X, just the original ROG Ally. And that's going to be like the Z1 Extreme, because the new one will also be, I think they would call it the 2A, I think it is, but it's very similar and matches up to the Z1 Extreme. So if you're looking to get that one, just to let you know, you might as well just go ahead and get an Ally that's already out in the market as it is now. They do have the Xbox ROG Ally X, where that's going to be a completely different machine. In fact, the new processor is going to be a Z2 Extreme, which is the next generation, which will feature FSR4, and it will have other graphical enhancements where the clarity is just going to look much better compared to something like FSR3, where everything was a little bit more jagged, a little bit more rigid, and it wouldn't seem as clear. So this is going to be quite an improvement for them. The UI is going to be much better. UI is going to be still Windows based, so you still can do all your Windows functions like you usually do. You could even have Microsoft Word on there if you wanted to. But it's going to be a lot more gamer friendly, meaning you can use your gamepad to get to every location you need around Windows, depending on what type of applications or software that you're looking for. You can easily maneuver around compared to how it originally used to be, where you had to strictly use the joystick for a cursor, or you would attempt to use the touchscreen, where there were areas where you might be a little bit uncomfortable touching the screen or trying to access to. So I want to lower his, and I do have to say, another big improvement too on top of it is that it's going to have a bit more RAM, but the only thing, again, it's LPDDR5X, which is going to be non-removable. You're unable to remove the RAM. You still could be able, unless you're very comfortable with soldering RAM inside. There's modifications out there where you can do something like that. The battery is going to be quite the upgrade, as it's 80 watt hours, which is going to be double of what the original was. And if with that case, I can tell you the original one can last between about an hour 20 to an hour 30 with really good settings, like if you set it around 20 watts. And you can max out about 40 watts with the current one. And with the Z2 Extreme, I'm looking forward to see how much you could really max out on. I'm assuming it's probably going to be about the same wattage, I would think. But instead, you can expect a way better battery. You'll probably see more closer to the range, about between 2.5 to 3 hours, I could see for certain with this Xbox ROG Ally X. Another big difference between the UI as well is that it does have the Xbox button on there. More than likely, it's going to interact similar to how it would on Xbox, to where you have your Xbox guide. You could go to your friends, and you can access your games that way too, for those who have a Game Pass. So you have, let me go back here. You can get a decent cheap Dell Optiplex PC and buy GPU and RAM separately for cheap. Yeah, have GTA 5. GTA 5, it runs, that runs great too on the ROG Ally, I gotta say. I've even played Expedition 33, runs great. Doom Dark Ages also works excellent on it. I've been doing a video currently for anybody who does own a ROG Ally as it is. I still will be pushing out some more information on it for those who are interested into getting something like Steam OS and seeing the type of abilities you can do with Steam OS, since you can get a little bit more flexibility. I've heard questions on how you can adjust the TDP on Steam OS, which I will share with you guys in this upcoming video. This video will be released next week, and since tomorrow I will be releasing a video more of a GPU buyer's guide on which GPU you should get depending on the type of monitor you have, the type of usage, really, because it can be a confusing subject. And I just want to clarify to everybody out there that a RTX 5090 is not really needed for maximum gaming or the best gaming. And I do have to mention that there are plenty of options out there depending on what type of monitor you're using, and that there is and don't think you'll be limited by your GPU because of it, especially if, again, it's all about the resolution. It's all about the type of settings that you're really looking for, and also the type of game that you are planning to play as well. Can you give me a copy link for it? Would you upgrade to the 9070 XT from the 7900 XT? I gotta say, it is improvement. It is quite the improvement through the 9070 XT. It isn't going to be like this. It's going to be actually a pretty decent gap. I think it's around like 10 to 15%. You'll see right off the bat, and even with the optimizations and everything, you can see quite the difference. But I can say, if you're looking for something with more VRAM, I am still curious if AMD does have something up their sleeves. Hopefully everybody out there got to see the video on seeing the on the 9080 XT or the 9090 XT, where there could be a possibility of that being released, but we probably wouldn't see that until the end of the year to next year, I would think, if AMD does end up trying to push for it. Of course, right now, they're still on the whole, they still only have a Navi 48, I think it is, to where it's going to be, they're going to have to expand on that if that's the case. But I would say, if you are thinking of upgrading to a 9070 XT, you will see quite the noticeable difference. You'll see the biggest improvement, I gotta say, for the most part, is the software side, where you'll see an improvement on FSR4. You'll see also an improvement in AFMF2, which is their motion flow. you'll see a lot of improvements on those ends, and it'll be a lot better in clarity. And also depends on the monitor that you're gaming on. Especially if you're gaming on a higher resolution monitor, you'll see quite the difference. For example, if you're gaming on, say, a 1440p monitor or a 4K monitor, you'll certainly see it. 1080p, you'll see a boost in frame rates, but you might not see as much of a difference when it comes to picture quality. You might if you usually use something like FSR 3 or FSR 3.5, depending on which one you use. But you can see a difference, I would say, for the most part. It's going to, yeah, that's the only thing stopping me right now from upgrading with my luck. Yes, that's the scary part. Anytime that happens, it always seems like it's right around the corner, the next upgrade. I'm going to go to Ryzen 5 3600 to the Ryzen 5 5600. That's awesome if you do. Leonardo, you said, I'm about to get the Gigabyte AORUS Elite in X870 in white. What do you think? If you want, I'd tell you my specs because I bought everything else except the motherboard. Yeah, sure. Throw out your specs out there. I think Gigabyte does make some excellent boards. I'm glad that you ended up going with Gigabyte's board because they do have quite a beautiful board. It's a very convenient board, in fact, where it's a lot easier to swap out NVMEs in it because you can take out the whole bottom plate in order to access all of your SSDs instead of individually or using a screwdriver to take off the plate. They just have quick release route latches for that. They do have a button to make it a little bit easier too to remove your PCI Express. It is a great motherboard. What's up, Sanchez? Glad to see you in. Honestly, gaming with the 7900 XT is amazing. It's just editing videos where it lacks a bit. Yeah, that's something I'll bring up to tomorrow's video about the whole editing side when it comes to videos, because I didn't want to just focus it on gamers. It's not just a buyer's guide, but it also gives quite a bit of definition on what is important when you are looking for a graphics card. Now, for anybody out there that are editors or anybody that's interested in type of workflows, I do have to mention one thing. AMD is awesome when it comes to, it's not just gaming, but it's great when it comes to workflow. But there is one issue, is depending on the type of software you use. For example, I can tell you something like Adobe or a DaVinci Resolve, where it's a little bit more GPU intensive. There's some, not all of Adobe, but certain things in Adobe to where it's going to require some CUDA cores, and unfortunately AMD doesn't have that side of it. But AMD is working on improving it, and hopefully more software does become a little bit more compatible when it comes to the AMD side. So if you are looking for that side, NVIDIA does do that side slightly better, just because these companies optimize more for NVIDIA, unfortunately. But oh, thanks for the super sticker, OSG. I appreciate it. Thank you. I like the black and yellow ASUS Tough Mobo. I do. It almost gives you that. I know I'm a big Pokemon fan and everything, but it gives me almost like that, like Zapdos and Raikou type of feel. I think that would be a great theme if anybody does go with something like that, with a full yellow and black ASUS Tough theme. That would be sick. And but I do got to say, when it comes to not just the workflow, AMD does improve in certain software that they're working on, and same thing with their AI software they're currently trying to improve. They did throw in a new, what was it called? It'll come to me, but AMD is working on something to improve it. You can expect them to be a little bit more, not just a little bit, but I think they want to become a lot more competitive compared to somebody like NVIDIA. They want to be in the same space. But I gotta say, what is really interesting is NVIDIA's CPU when they have that released, the N1X and the N1. But does the G41 Express chipset support DDR3? Now, the G41, that's a throwback there. Let me just, I gotta check the chipset again. That's a while back. If I look at it, I can tell you. G41. I need a bigger picture than that. But here goes, you know what? Here we go. This is something you would look into, is these chipset diagrams here. This is good to take a look at. Now for the G41 Express set here, it seems that it does support it. That's right, DDR2 and DDR3 had that weird phase where they were kind of like DDR3 was not DDR3, but DDR2 was compatible in DDR3. It was that weird chipset. But it all depends on the processor, really, that you choose. If your processor does support it, then it will be able to. Not all of them do, though. So it just depends on the type of processor that you are choosing to go with. So it's like a construction site design. You could always do that. That would be pretty funny. You can make it look really dope though. Like if you wanted to do a theme like that, like a full construction type of theme, if you go with the whole ASUS tough yellow and black type of build. But yeah, this is something you would take a look at to give you a good indication of what would be compatible in that PC. But on a G41 chipset diagram, this is exactly what is supported here. So it just depends on the processor. This one's going to be Intel 2 dual core, and then you have the quad processor. So yeah, again, that's a throwback. That's like what, 2000 and let me see. It's been a while. The max TDP is 25 watts on this Core 2 Duo. That's got to be what is it, like 2007, 2008? That's a minute ago. No, and this one's 2012. Okay. This article was 2012. But I think it's a little bit older than that from what I remember. But that's a great question, though. It's a great way to definitely bring back some memories. But I almost forgot all about that. Like back then when they had that compatibility where there was actually DDR2 was very quick, that phase. It wasn't even long. It was more like it went to DDR2, like for I think a couple of years it was. And then it went straight to DDR3 right after. And then after DDR3, DDR4 eventually came out, and that like was the one that really lasted the longest compared to both DDR2 and DDR3. But that was quite the time. So when do you think the AM6 boards will be releasing, Chris? I might be upgrading my AM4 Mobo. I think AM6 motherboards will be releasing within probably about late, what is it, 25 now, 25? Probably, to be honest, 2027, I think. I think 2027 is when they would for AM6. Zen 6 will be out by next year, I would say. Zen 6 would be more like the 10,000 series. I think that's what they're going to call it, the AMD 10,000 series. Maybe like the, they'll have like the, I guess they would call it, would they call it 9? No, they can't call it 19, right? Would they start all over? It would probably be like, what they call it? It's going to be a little confusing once they go on that side. But yeah, well, the 10,000 series chipset will be the Zen 6. It's going to be based on the same motherboards practically, where they'll have the X670, the X870, and then they'll probably be the X1070, I would guess. And if you're looking for a brand new chipset and a brand new type of architecture and everything, it's all going to be more than likely 2027. I think that was part of AMD's plans out there. So Alex asks, when am I going to do a live stream build? I would love to do a live stream build. It's going to be a little bit difficult wise, unless maybe within a couple months. I would just have to have somebody like my wife to help me out on it, because I would have to set up like multiple cameras. I think I gotta get a few more cam links, and I have to have different angles so everyone can see, because it'll be kind of hard for just one camera. Unless you guys don't mind just like watching from the distance. I like to try to bring everybody in to get the feel for it, and get a good feel to understand of how how to put together certain aspects of it, or if anybody is confused with anything such as like putting in the pins, like when it comes to the case wires, something like that. Would like to try to get that fully in, and hopefully it would be clear enough and everything on live. They're gonna copy. So Leonardo G says CPU Ryzen 9950 X3D cooler, thermal takes Frost Spirit 140 XFX, 9070 XT motherboards X Ripjaw M5. Yeah, you made an excellent choice with all your parts, I gotta say. All excellent parts, I gotta say. I don't see one single thing out or wrong with it. Those are some premium parts, I gotta say. The 9100 Pro, yeah, that's a really good piece. But again, like, nobody has to go that crazy. But if you do get one, I gotta pat you in the back for that. Now, LSG says they're gonna copy Intel's earlier name for the chipsets. You think so? I could see that happening. It seems almost like the whole industry does that, where Nvidia, Intel, AMD, they all end up like kind of riding on each other's on each other's like model's name eventually, because like how AMD's GPU side, it's very similar to Nvidia's, and it's gonna get quite confusing soon. And Leonardo says he has used a 1300 watt case, Liam Lee's 13, and a Thermaltake CTE C7050 750 Snow Air. And you can, yeah, I just have to, what's up, Snecker? Good to see you. And can I mention, yeah, sure, feel free, Killer B. Yeah, that's going to be quite the build. Make sure you post it up on Discord. And if anybody isn't part of the Discord channel, I'm going to shoot it down right here. And here you can feel free to share your pictures, and I'll feature up onto the live stream, and you guys can check it out. Oh, that's pretty annoying, like how it repeats it so many times. I gotta fix that issue. And it's but yeah, feel free, anybody has a PC build that they want to feature or just want to mention or talk about their specifications to see if everything's good, feel free to shoot it down. Leonardo has this excellent build that he's running. He has the Ryzen 9950X 3D, excellent chipset. I love it, I gotta say. Anybody who has it, not the 9090, not the 9950 X3D, but I got the 9800 X3D. But that is a great one for anybody out there who is into, not only just into gaming, but also into doing workflows, such as working on video editing, or you can even use it to do more rendering. So it's a great processor for that, if that is what you are also into. Now, if you're just into gaming, I usually recommend just getting something like the 9800 X3D. That would be the top processor to get. You don't necessarily have to get that chipset. You can even get something like the 9600X, and most people out there will be honestly happy. So Leonardo says, I'm about to build it, hopefully in the following weeks when everything arrives. I hope so too. What are AMD's gonna name the next gen GPUs? That's a great question. And I think the way AMD is gonna do it, I think that right now they're probably debating on their names, on their model names. But if they do continue the way they are, it's going to be called like the 1080. Isn't that ironic? The 1080 or the 1070 or the 1060. But it would be AMD's. It would be RX 1060 or RX 1070 or RX 1080 the 1080 if they have it. So it would be a little bit confusing with NVIDIA. And that's exactly what we were talking about with the whole industry, just confusing names here. But and Killer B says he has the Ryzen 9 7900s, just a regular MSI B650M gaming plus Wi-Fi Trident Z5 Neo 32. That's a great. I gotta say their RAM is excellent, and also RTX 5070 Ti solid SFF KC3002TB. Those are, you have a great build yourself, Killer B. You have an excellent build. I've been wanting to try out the 9800 X3D, but hesitant because of all the videos have them dying. Yeah, I gotta say, I think most of the ones that you see that are out there dying, LSG, which he brought up an excellent question here, where not more like a statement, but just seeing a lot of 9800 X3Ds dying. A lot of that was from the ASRock boards, and they realized that their mistake with the BIOS, and for some reason they were overvolting them, similar to what they were doing with Intel when it came to Raptor Lake and the Raptor Lake refresh. They were overvolting these CPUs, but that was more on the Intel side full. But when it comes to AMD, it wasn't really on AMD side. This had to do more with ASRock, with putting the wrong parameters in for the voltages, and that was causing a lot of the shorts when it came to the 9800 X3Ds. Because if you take a look at any other board, you won't really hear any issues with it. But that's a great topic that LSG had brought up. So any thoughts, please? So about your build, it's an excellent build. Typically, with something like the 7900s, is this already built together? I'm assuming your PC. Other than that, it's a great build. And the RTX, and I don't really see any issues. Only thing I would recommend is eventually just changing it out, just getting something with, like, say, a 7900X or an X3D, just those two. Because with if you get this, say this 9600X, for example, then you can have the ability to use different things like PBO2, where you can take advantage of. And you can see an improvement in frames if that is what you're looking for. But again, CPU is not like a huge portion of it. That's the only corner I could see really improving. The 5070 Ti is great. Everything else about your build's excellent when it comes to your RAM. 32 gigabytes is perfect. And the SSD, that's perfect the way it is. And most importantly, how's the cooling and everything, I have to ask. So Snecker has, I have the question about my CPU temperature. She's running about 55 to 60 without any load, 9700X with the NZXT 240A IO. Are these, yeah, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. What's the, one more thing I gotta ask you, Snecker, is what is your ambient temperature like? What's the ambient temperature in the area that you're in? Because that also does matter too. And that will affect the temperatures. Now, if you're in a colder area, then I would say it's a little bit odd. But most places right now, I would imagine it's probably a lot warmer than usual, because we're heading into summer, and typically you might see like higher influx of temperature because of that. So if you are in a seasonal area, say like in the springtime, it was a lot cooler, and you see the temperature jump up a little bit, that's more than likely because of the ambient temperature that is in the area. But let me see, go back here. Alexander says, what's better, the R5 5600 or the Ryzen 7 3700X? I would say, honestly, the 3700X would give you a little bit more flexibility, but you do have more cores, you do have more threads and everything. You do have the PBO ability you can take advantage of compared to the 5600, where it's just stock. But if you had to choose between the two, I would say the 3700X would be the better one. Now, Michael Jerzak says 7800X 3D, B650i, and Night Devil, 32 gigabyte, DDR5, CL38. Oh, let me go back up here. Sorry, guys. Okay, so 32 gigabytes DDR4, CL38, Frozen A620, Pro SE RM850X, ATX 3.1, 1 terabyte SSD Gen 3. Was running it for a month on iGPU, got my hands free of the RX 470. I've run out of funds for GPU. Oh, that sucks. Hopefully you can get it together, Michael. Hopefully you can get that GPU soon. luckily, at least it's available. You can get your hands on one. There shouldn't be any issues getting one. It's just the fact that just trying to get one now could be a pain. They do have some great deals out there on the like 9060s or the 9060 XTs. I do have, check out Newegg Shellshocker if you are within like Canada and the US, because they do have some great deals, especially if you don't have a Micro Center near you. I know how that can be, and Newegg would be like the only best source next to Amazon. So check out Shellshocker if you are looking for one, or if you need any recommendations, feel free to let me know. And Leonardo says, I should have bought Killer Bee's RAM because that isn't CL30. Last week I just recently, oh really? Maybe you can always swap it out, Leonardo. Maybe you can do a quick trade. Yeah, like refund the one if you can. CL28 is much better. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, CL28 is much better in latency. Now, you won't see like a large gap between the two, but it is better in latency. You can always adjust the timing too. But most people don't really like to mess with that now. Everything's mostly through either Expo, especially if you're using AMD. Now, blackout system, no RGB. That's a perfect stealth build. That's actually something I want to do upcoming on the next build. And yeah, I'll think about what Alex is saying. I could do a live build. We could do something like that together. I'm also going to, I plan 2 more builds at least. But there's going to be an Intel build, which is, I don't know if you guys see it behind me, but it's a Z890 board that I still have. I still got to put it together. It's something I've been slacking on because I know not a ton of people want to see an Intel build, but just to build a PC and we have it, we might as well. And we do plan on doing a stealth build, which is going to also be an AMD build. But that's excellent. That's awesome that you did a stealth build. It's nice, and you don't have to worry about drivers when it comes to RGBs or anything like that. That could be a real pain. And Leonardo says, I think I'll go swap it out, but explain to us a bit more about the whole timings and RAM of CL stuff. This is my first. Okay, to answer Leonardo G's question here, let me just highlight it real quick so everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about here. And let me see. So, it's a little bit lost here. There we go. Where's it at? And I bought CL there. Right here. Okay. So, the question Leonardo has, I was trying to highlight it, but it didn't appear on this side. But the question Leonardo had was, what is the difference between timings, latencies, and everything like that? Now, they matter, especially when it comes to AMD boards because of Infinity Cache. If you guys don't know what the Infinity Cache is, it's an access where it helps the CPU release its cache flawlessly into the RAM, so it gives more flawless performance when you are doing things such as gaming. So the Infinity Cache is usually the best magic number for it is 6,000 megahertz, but it can be pushed up as high as 6,400 megahertz. You may see some that are a lot higher. This is all marketing, and I'd say this is more for something like Intel anyway. When you see anything that's higher, like for higher than 6,400, you'll see some as high as, say, 8,000 megahertz. But that is completely a waste of money. 100% don't need it, especially on AMD builds. You just need to focus on between 6,000 to 6,400 megahertz. And the latency, the best latency is a lower number. So you might see CL40 versus, say, CL30. Now, that's going to be a large gap because they usually go into even numbers such as 2s. So you'll see like 40, 38, 30, 36, 34, and so on. You'll see even low numbers. I think they go as low as CL26 now. And usually this happens when the chipset has been around for long enough when it comes to RAM. And they'll keep dropping. Eventually it'll hit probably like 18, 16s. But anyway, the point is the number that you really want to focus on when it comes to latency is going to be between CL26 all the way to CL34. Those numbers are good to have because those are relatively low frequencies when it comes to the, not frequency, but the whole low latency when it comes to memory. The frequency is when I mentioned about the whole megahertz, when it became like when I was talking about 6,000 megahertz all the way up to 6,400 megahertz. That's the frequency. When it comes to timings, that is specifically set by Expo. You're going to see numbers such as like say 30, 36, 36. That's all synchronization when it comes to timing. Now you can usually adjust those, but it's really not as recommended now. Before, that would be more of a thing to do. You can always manually overclock it, but that's something you also have to be careful because you also have to understand the chipset. When it comes to the memory, you have to understand what type of die that memory is using, which is they have SK Hynix dies, they have Samsung dies, but I could get into a whole explanation of that. That's just a general idea of what's in there. And when you adjust the timing, you can choose to try to drop the latency, and you just adjust the frequency to match it. And that's how you can kind of like hack into it to where you can drop the latency down, but you can adjust the frequency to match it. And if you do that, then you can get better timings, so to say, for the latency when you're gaming, and you get better frames because of it. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that was kind of a lengthy explanation, but that's what that is. So let me get back up here. So also with the 9700X CPU, check in the BIOS to see if there's 105 watts or 65 watts. That's actually a great thing to mention as well, because that also matters when it comes to temperatures massively. A really killer beat, but how so? But my timings are tighter than I yet don't understand. Simple, because the lower CL is lower latency, assuming we have both at the same RAM speed. Oh, so that's fine. Stability, latency. Okay. Yeah, CL28's perfect, Leo. I would say you don't have any issues keeping it. It's a great set to have. Is the RTX 5070 and the Ryzen 5 9600X a good combination? Absolutely. Oh, 1440p? Absolutely. You're definitely doing great there, Vibe. For when it comes to the 9600X, even though it sounds like a lower processor number, it's not really that like as bad as it sounds. It runs on 6 cores and about 12 threads. And usually when it comes to gaming, you're mostly just using single cores. That's why it seems that a lot of single core processors, such as 9800X3D, can perform really well when it comes into gaming. So yeah, you won't have any issues, especially on 1440p. What's up, Wasabi? Good to see you here. Thanks, man. This clears up so many of my questions. No problem at all. And feel free, if you have any more questions, feel free to join the Discord. As we know, as everybody here knows, it is a very active area where you can talk about any tech questions, questions about builds, troubleshooting. All different types of issues can be resolved in Discord for certain. Wasn't the formula RAM latency, CAS latency, 2000? Yes. Yeah, very good at remembering that. Glad to hear that. And I think it's just right above, but I would love to put up the Discord. I'm sure Alex will definitely put it up as if you guys missed out, or just go to the description box or go further up in the chat, and it'll be available for anybody out there to join. And again, it's completely free. It's just everybody's there to have a good time, talk about their PC builds. What's your most favorite build I have ever done? Honestly, the most favorite build wasn't necessarily just a gaming PC, but it was actually the Threadripper build that I've done a while back, and I think it was early 2021. and that was because it was mostly different, as it was as the processor, like installing it, it's a lot different from your typical processor. Installing it like from Intel and AMD, as when you install it, you have this like plastic insert where you pull it, and I just like the flexibility of building on top of a Threadripper, where you can have the flexibility of having so much memory in it, or you can have so much options when it comes to your express lanes. But it seems like we don't have as much as we do before when it comes to gaming builds. But it's before, it seems like our options were a lot more larger, but it seems like over time it's definitely shrunk down a bit. But I did really enjoy doing the Threadripper build. Second build, I gotta say, it was a recent build, which was the 9800X3D build. That was a very fun build to do, and I really liked the ASUS ROG Hero X870E. I gotta say, it is a great motherboard for everything that I've seen, and the probably one of the least issues I've ever seen in a motherboard for certain. And I saw AMD update their video game list with FSR4. Can't wait to play Stellar Blade, but yes, absolutely. And oh yeah, that's a great reminder, Wasabi. I do have to say, later today, first things first though, before I go to Taiwan, I gotta go take Jonah out to get dog sit it, to find someone to dog sit him. So I have to take him out to a couple places here, like later in the afternoon, to make sure that he gets along well with the other dogs, because I got to make sure he's all good to go, that he gets along with them. And he's also visiting a friend of mine's to see if he gets along with, if Jonah gets along with his dog. But either way, I'm got to find a good place for him to be before I go over to Taiwan. And then right afterwards, after I get done all that, I will come back and we will be on stream and playing some Stellar Blade. And we can either do it on, we could do it on both the 9070 XT, or we can do it on the RTX 5090, and we can see, do some comparisons that way. But Snecker says I have to go, have to prepare dinner, pass my, oh, congratulations, Snecker. Awesome thing, passing exams. I know that's not easy. Where can I find FS4? Let me see if I can find you one, actually. That's a great question. Usually, AMD will have it listed right here. So if anybody, actually I'll just share it with you guys live, and I'll share the list too in the link. But this is what the list looks like. So when you see this, AMD Fidelity FX supported games, this gives you right here, you'll see the column FSR4, and then it will also mention all the games that it is also compatible with. So Stellar Blade's right there in the compatibility list. So if anyone's interested in playing some Stellar Blade, you can certainly play FSR4. That's a big advantage. Again, it's a large improvement over FSR3. You can, and any of these games that you are interested in, Ghost of Tsushima's on there, God of Ragnarok, they have Horizon Forbidden West. It's funny, these are a lot of PlayStation titles too. Spider-Man 2, Mech Warriors 5, all these titles, you can play FSR4, and I will share the link with everybody out there, whoever has a AMD GPU. Hopefully it gives you guys the link. Hello, sir. I can't decide between the Endgame OP18K or the Attack Shark. Now, I would have to compare these two. Let's see. So you're comparing these two. So he's talking about this specifically, which is a mouse. Right here. And it's 8,000 hertz polling rates. Pixar PAL 339. Calic GX switches, all well, black, it's nice. This is a more of a competitive mouse. This is great for mouses like this is great for when it comes to like a polling rate, like when you are actually moving the cursor, like how I am, just like this. That is what it's good for. You'll see less input lag because of it. Also, the other one is the Attack Shark V3. Let's take a look at this one real quick. Attack Shark right here. This is the X3. Yeah, X3. $49 grams, 26K DPI optim. This is a very standard sensor. So this is actually a really good one. It's probably going to be the same sensor Logitech uses, I bet. 200 hours. Honestly, I would say if I were to compare the two, this actually might be the better one to get. You might enjoy the Attack Shark. Give this one a shot and see how you would like it. Now the other one, that's definitely more competitive. It will be more smooth than this, I will say, if you are to compare the two. This one is good in DPI, meaning this means dots per inch, like when you move your cursor. And when you compare it to the other one, which is going to be 8,000 hertz, this is going to be a lot more smooth. Again, this is going to be great for first-person shooters. So if you're looking for something that's great for first-person shooters or something like that, that would be great. This would be the good choice. The other one would be good for general gaming, I would say, if you're to compare the two. And Nafasha says 5600 better than the 3700X. That's debatable, depending on what you do. I'd say when it comes to your timing, what kind of not timing, but when it comes to your PVO and everything. What kind of build would you recommend for a 4K 1440p? Mostly Call of Duty, to be honest. This is going to be my first ever build this summer. I'm only starting to get into PC gaming. That's a great question, Vibes. If you're mostly just playing Call of Duty, honestly, you don't have to go too crazy on the GPU. Now, I gotta say, Call of Duty is more AMD friendly, believe it or not. Especially in Black Ops 6, but then again, I don't know if they're going to switch it up. They usually like to change it up every once in a while. But for Black Ops, if I was to say it for Black Ops 6 settings, I got to look at Black Ops 7's minimum settings as well, which we can always look up. No problem, Leonardo. What we can always look up, but I can say you want to start off with the GPU, which is going to be the 9070 XT. You want to get the best GPU out there for AMD. Also, you want to get something like if you're playing something like Call of Duty, like a AMD Ryzen 9600X would be perfectly fine. Then you can get a motherboard like a B850. Any type of B850 board, I think, would fit your needs well. Also, you would want to get at least DDR5. I will make this whole list for you, Vibes. If you're on Discord, I will send it over to you. I can send you a couple lists, and you can choose out whichever list that you would like if you're choosing. I will certainly help you out there. But you want to get at least 32 gigabytes of 6,000 megahertz, and with a latency of like 30. But mostly, I would give you good gaming standards for something like that. I think that would go well with you. And it won't be crazy expensive, in fact. Sophie says, thanks for your time. I'll go with the Attack Shark X3 because I don't need an extreme mouse. Okay, perfect. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, no problem, Vibes. I will certainly help you out. Just message. Just tell me your vibes inside of the PC hardware side, and I'll get together a list for you and send it over to you. But I'll send you a couple lists, especially now Newegg has some great deals, which is something I wanted to share with everybody here, is that they have already some bundles if you aren't interested in any of them. One of my favorite ones is the Ryzen 7 9800X3 bundle, because again, it comes with an SSD, it comes with a lot of good bonuses that would usually cost extra, because usually this processor is about $472 alone. Now it comes with an NVMe, which is a really good deal. So technically you're spending maybe about $400 on the processor now, compared to spending the full $472. And they do have some motherboards here, which are an excellent deal with this 9800X3D, such as the, I'll show you this bundle here. Where's it at? Right there. Not Ace Rock, but let's take a look at this one here. It's all white one. Gaming on trackpad is on the right. Yes, absolutely. They gotta have a trackpad. But this one's a great one here, as this one features the X870E Plus Tough Gaming motherboard, and this one is actually better than the one that I showed, which was the B850, and it comes with the processor, and I believe it also has NVMe with it too, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it says additional free offers that it comes with, if you guys see it right there, that it also comes with Team Group 16 gigabytes. Again, it's free, you can't beat it. That it'll come with that, and it also comes with the Kingston MV3, which is PCI Express 4 PCI Express 4 SSD that it does come with, and all for $683, which isn't a bad deal. Personally, I would say I would take out the RAM if I could and swap it with something like 32 gigabytes. So I would compare the two and definitely price it together. But it's great to start off with if you're just trying to build a PC. So Sophie says, have you heard of AORUS Cosmic wireless fans? 1/3 of the price of Lee SL Infinity. Crazy good value. I've heard of AORUS, but I've never really done anything with them. That's something I definitely have to take a look to, and I will definitely look at that. I am curious about it. I am going to look it up right now, and if anything, I can do a video on it and see how well it really does. This must be it here, right? These fans. Cosmic 120 mil. So they look just like similar to Lee's, but except they don't have anything in the middle. Like where compared to Lee's, they do have displays if you want them. But yeah, I'm a bit curious. I'll definitely throw that onto the list here. It's only $17 for it, which is pretty insane. And that's just for one. If you have a 3-piece, it's about $48.98. So Alexander says, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Brotherhood on PS3 right now. Oh, dope. Yeah, it's always great to play some retro games. So what's your most favorite thing in your setup, or is something you really want that you haven't bought yet? I have to say, the most favorite thing I like about this setup, believe it or not, is I really enjoy the case. I gotta say, I really love the case. It just is a really nice display compared to what cases used to be. Because back then, cases were more just like straight up metal, like a metal box, and you couldn't really see anything. But I really enjoy these type of cases. That's like one of the favorite things I love about the build. And of course, I gotta love the RGBs on it. It just the aesthetics of it is what I love about the case the most. But if I had a bigger case, I would have both the RX 9070 XT AORUS, same as you. I had to go with Gigabyte's one. Oh man, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. That's also, I gotta say, the RX 9070 XT AORUS is still a great card for the most part. I bet you've been satisfied with it, right? But I gotta say, when it comes to builds, it's very important too, I gotta say, for anyone that is building or just starting off to build. it's also important to make sure that the wiring is, try to keep the wiring to the minimal in the front of it, because you want decent airflow. That also does help out with your temperatures a lot too. And that reminds me, let me go back up there and see exactly what the ambient temperature was. Let me see. Just looking for the ambient temperature. And that's probably a while back now. But that's also important too. You want to keep your temperatures nice and regulated. I need to get a decent desk for real. I gotta say, it takes a while to get like a decent desk, and I've been through quite a few. This desk isn't too bad. This one I got off of Amazon. I think I have it in the description box down below, but it's a 60-inch desk, and it has pretty decent support to it. Only negative thing I do have to say about this desk is I thought it would come as one piece, but it's actually two boards put together. So even though it is a 60-inch desk that I ordered, it's really putting two pieces of 40-inch pieces of 40 inches of I guess you would call this composite together. So 40-inch composite that you put together, and then you screw them together. So that's the only negative thing. It's not as sturdy as a true 60-inch solid desk, and you can pay decent money if you want like a true solid desk. Thoughts on BTF motherboards possibly becoming the future? I absolutely do think that it would become the future of PC building. I think they are an excellent option. BTF boards, I gotta say, would definitely help temperatures for the most part. It would help a lot when it comes to cosmetics. Also, if you don't want to have any wires really sticking out of your board, but I could certainly see that becoming more of the future. The only downside I'd say for it is more the price. I know it can be pretty pricey if you go for BTF, and you have to match all the components. So if you go BTF, you want to make sure you get a BTF case too that can work with it, because there will be cases out there that won't be as compatible for BTF boards. But I read that Ryzen, yes, that's for, that's the funny thing. I brought that up at the first thing when I saw that was the whole Ryzen 5500 X3D. It's insane, right? They're coming out with this processor, but the memory is going to be quite expensive. I mentioned this on an earlier stream on Wednesday, where if you do try to get DDR4 memory, that they are going to uptick the price on it because they stopped making it. They made it to where it's going to be 50% more expensive if you do purchase DDR4, because it's not going to be a common occurrence for them to create that anymore, because they're all 100% in on DDR5. So, well, you know, my first PC is the first part, but can you tell us about how to build a functional desk setup that fulfills your needs, even to the details like your peripherals or maybe your USB hubs? That's a little tricky. Everyone's going to be a little bit different on that. Now, if you are a gamer slash a student, right? Depending on the type of needs that you need to be more functional, is how many USB ports do you really need is the first part if you're looking for, because you're going to, how often do you transfer storage drives, or do you use the cloud more? It's a little bit tricky to answer that, but I would say the first thing you would want to look for is you're going to look for a case where it has the IO ports that you would like. Some cases have very limited IO ports in the front of it. Some cases have a very decent amount, depending on how often you use those USB ports. If you already have the case, then it's also a good idea to even get a dock for your PC, because it makes it a lot easier for you to transfer information that way as well. Now, when it comes for functional usage, when it comes to keyboards and mice, you want to make sure to get something that isn't too sensitive when you are typing, or something that is too stiff when you're typing as well, or too noisy. I would say like a more functional build would be something like a K70, Corsair K70, which is a nice, beautiful keyboard. It's a much more solid build, and it's actually pretty quiet, great for gaming, and also great for functional use. For the mouse, I would say a Logitech G502 is perfect for it because that's more functional and for gaming as well. But I could continue going on. Just let me know what type of needs are you looking for. Are you more of a do you use it for work? Do you also use it for are you a student? Do you use it also for any type of editing? Let me know and I will answer. I got the same desk. I got rid of the top and bought a cutting board. Yeah. Isn't that ridiculous though? Like how it came with that? I also thought about it. Like at that time, it's like, why not just you could get so much better material, especially when you just go to a place like Home Depot, and you could get like a nice thick, because the stands are excellent. I gotta say, the stands are lovely. It's just the boards that they give you are just terrible. Honest opinion on the air cooling versus AIO. I personally think AIO is for aesthetics, more for high-end systems, but air cooling would be better for most people. Now, this one I can say it all depends on your usage. When it comes to AIO, I would say it's better for something like much more powerful CPU. Something that you know that's going to be heavily loaded, such as like a 9950X3D, or something like a even like a Threadripper would be great for it. Something that you know that the CPU will have intensive tasks. But in all honesty, when it comes to something like a 9700X or something like a Intel 265K, you won't really need AIO as much. You can get one. They do have more functional ones, like ones where they're only 240 millimeter. And for those who are very cautious about temperatures and cares about that, they will get something like AIO. But actually, a fan cooling does work excellent. Personally, I think Be Quiet makes some excellent CPU coolers. Noctua also makes great CPU coolers as well when it comes to fan cooling. The only ones I don't really recommend are Enermax. I don't really feel that they're that great. They're not a great company, I'd say, for the most part. But I'd say most fan coolers are excellent. Deep Cool also makes some actually really good coolers as well. But that's what I think personally. It's great for if you know you're going to put your CPU under intensive task. If you do things like rendering, you do things like heavy type of photo editing or anything like that, then it would be great to get a CPU like AIO for that. If you're using it just strictly for gaming, most of the time, unless you're playing like heavily ray traced games, you won't really need it. If they're more heavily ray traced, it's going to use a little bit more usage, but then again, the usage will not ever exceed well past 40%. It will mostly stay under that range. Air cooling is reliable, and there is no way it will fry your whole system when an AIO leaks. That's true. AIO can possibly leak, but so far, luckily, I've never ran into any AIO issues so far that I've seen. But again, that's why I didn't really recommend something as much like as Enermax. But I can say other AIOs that I've seen Corsairs, Deep Cools, ASUS's, who else? But quite a bit of AIOs I've been through, and I haven't seen any real issues. Usually closed looped is good to stay closed looped. Do not try to attempt to open it up, as they're not meant to change out the different coolants in it. So Leonardo says, I work and I'll use it for gaming work. Yes, master coolers are also excellent as well. I work and I'll use for gaming and work. I have it the case, but it's a bit far from my desk on a shelf. So I'll be using a hub to charge my wireless. Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean, Leo. So definitely get something like a hub or a dock because it does make quite the difference, especially when you don't want to end up reaching to the back of your PC because that can be quite the pain, especially how far it is. But yeah, using something like that will certainly be a lot more functional. Also, a lot of monitors also have the features of having USB now built into it, so you'll be able to plug in your dock directly to that if you'd like. Wasabi says, have you seen that Samsung has officially started with G7 3GB modules, possibly 50 series with increased fame? Yeah, you know what? I'm not too surprised either because I know this is something that they've been working on. And for those who are really waiting for next year for a GPU who could wait, I know NVIDIA is definitely, I think for certain that that they will have an RTX 5080 Super with at least 24 gigabytes of VRAM. Now that I'd say would be the perfect gamer's card because again you have plenty of cap space you need when it comes to gaming, and it's not going to be as costly as something like the RTX 5090, and it won't require as much wattage as the RTX 5090. So like the RTX 5080 Super and the RTX 5070 Ti Super would be great to definitely keep an eye on within the next year. And more than likely you can expect them to get released or to be released within about like the end of January of 26. I would expect it to maybe into February maybe. And that's definitely something to keep an eye out on for those who are looking for a newer GPU such as that. Arctic, yeah, I would say away from Arctic too. Can you explain you speak with great knowledge and have admirable caring and responses. Keep it. Oh, thanks a lot. I do my best, Sophie. I really do care for everybody out there who is getting into PC gaming. I know it could be a new realm, and we've all been there. I've been there where I first built a PC, and I had an indication of, I had an idea of knowing what I was doing, but at the same time, I didn't. As I'm sure I told you guys all that story where I did my first most critical mistake when I built a PC, like when I first built a PC. But Arctic Freezer, can you explain the difference between motherboards models like the MSI B650 or the B50? Oh yeah, sure. So if you're comparing, like say the MSI B650 and the B850, the only differences that you will notice is that it'll have a little bit more compatibility with newer RAM modules, but the BIOS flashback can also help the B650 do that anyway. Not the flashback, but a BIOS update can also help the B650 also catch up in that sense. But the more differences, the key differences is the PCBs that they use. How much layers do they use? It's going to be probably a little tad bit thicker, maybe 1 or 2 layers thicker, which doesn't matter as much. Also, when it comes to the type of coolers that they use for the VRMs, it's also going to be slightly adjusted. It's going to be slightly improved when it comes to the B850. Also, when it comes to the USB ports, it's also going to be different because from the B650 module to the B850, they chose to improve the USB usage compared to the prior model, which is like USB-C with like 20 gigabits of like 20 gigabit ports compared to something like 10 gigabit ports compared to the B650. Another major difference is more of the Ethernet connection. You'll have one where it's only a 1 gigabit connection versus like a 2.5 gigabit connection. Wi-Fi connection will also be different. You'll have Wi-Fi 6E and then Wi-Fi 7 on the B850. And you will also have an improvement in Bluetooth where it will be Bluetooth version 5.2 versus version 5.4. So those would be the main differences. It's not going to be like a big difference or an evolutionary change over another motherboard, but it's going to be slight. So if you have a 650, just say, it wouldn't be worth upgrading to a B850 unless you're coming from something like a 5, like you're coming from something like a like a B550, then it would make sense to go B850, because then you're going to have a generational gap from there. But I'm going to make my first PC today, along with the desk and chair. Oh, you're gonna have fun today then. So, AIB 5090 floods the channel in the last 5 weeks, plus 56%, and the 5090 FE sells off the 33%, where the 5090 is reaching MSRP in Europe. That's awesome. At least it's becoming a little bit normalized. I did notice that it seems that the stock supply is getting a little bit lower on the 5090s for sure. Oh, I didn't even think of that. My 2 monitors, Cooler Master Tempest GP27U, has USB ports, each of them one USB-C, USB-A. It's funny because, yes, let me tell you real quick, Leonardo, when it comes to the USB Type-B, make sure to plug it into your PC, because if you don't plug it in, it won't read off of your monitor. So make sure you plug that USB-B into the USB-A into your PC, and all your USB ports will work. Otherwise, you might wonder when you plug in something and you're like, how come my PC is not detecting it? I might stream my screen on you see on Discord later. Okay, all right, sounds good. Yes, let's go, Dash X. I'm excited for you. I might get ready to get frustrated and get sweaty laughing loud. First builds are always fun. Yes. The first time you're building, the key is just having patience. Don't rush. Enjoy it. It's very therapeutic, I gotta say. Once you start building PCs, you'll realize how therapeutic it is. And everybody can tell you here in the chat that once that PC first starts up, how proud you'll feel. You'll feel like, I built this thing. It's one of the greatest feelings that you can ever get. But have some patience, especially when it comes to the whole building the table and everything, because I know that's going to be fun. I'm gonna be on War Thunder. Okay, all right, Alex. Yeah, so that's what I would say mostly for those motherboard pieces. So if anybody's thinking out there, if there's going to be a phenomenal difference, it's not really going to be that large of a difference. Again, it's only worth it if you're going for a generational gap or a generational leap off of another PC, I should say. But also, when it comes to PC building, another thing that's also really important to remember is make sure to have the proper tools when doing it. So you don't really need as many tools, which is the nice thing about building PCs now. Everything's a lot more quick connects practically. Even like just taking off the plates, you don't really even need screwdrivers as much anymore. But the most you'll need for a PC build now is just you want to have a pretty decent long Phillips head screwdriver, because there's going to be some areas where you're going to need that length. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to squeeze in there, and you don't want to end up like bending or breaking any other parts. Typically, I always recommend building the motherboard first, and then just such as installing the CPU, putting the RAM, the NVMEs in, and then putting it in your case, because you won't have to reach over as much. If you have an AIO, you want to put that plate on before you put it into your case as well. If you have the fan cooler, just install it while it's out of the case, and then once you put the motherboard in the case, you have very little to do. Then worry about the wiring and set everything to, or kind of try to route everything to your idea of how to install your PC. But what's up, Ezekiel? Good to see you. It's been a while. The other day, I was recording episodes of Warhammer Space Marine playthrough and played on the external hard drive on top of the case and overheated, made my OB. Oh, that's terrible. That is just terrible, Wasabi. That sucks. When that happens, that's Is your hard drive okay though? Is the external hard disk okay? Leonardo G says, man, I had no idea this is how you use USB-B on the monitor. I would have never guessed it. Thank you. I'll definitely use it. Tell people that they can take advantage. Not many people know. Yes, you want to plug in, anybody who doesn't know, you want to plug in your USB-B into your monitor over to your PC to USB-A. If you don't do that, your USB ports will not read. So if you're thinking that your USB ports aren't working, just make sure that your USB-B port is plugged in into your, and have it plugged into your USB-A side of your PC, and everything will be fine. For a moment, I thought I bricked. Oh, yes, yeah, don't worry. PCs, the good thing about PCs, they're honestly a very hard thing to brick. So you don't have to worry about that side at least. But it just sucks. But your hard drive, it may not brick, but you can lose data, which would suck. Well, what hard disk are you using, by the way? I gotta ask. I highly recommend going SSD if you can. If you're looking for the extra space, I would say go for it, because SSD, it definitely helps and makes quite the difference. And the only thing about hard disk is they can work great when you install games and everything in it, but the problem is the whole intermission when it comes to the lag when it goes into the USB, I would say. But hopefully you manage to get an SSD. It will certainly make a difference. I put it on the floor to cool it. You know what? Also, another option you can always do, I just thought of too, is you can always use something like a fan to cool it off. Because you can use like a 120 millimeter case fan, just put it underneath and let it kind of cool off. So that way you don't have to worry as much. That way it doesn't overheat. Because I know how you feel. It can get pretty hot. I have 4 hard drives and 1 SSD. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with hard drives. I just always worry more about the mechanical part of it. The only issues I have when it comes to hard drives is that they still run on a metal disk. In fact, they're still widely used because you do have NAS systems and everything that does use it. And that's something I've always wanted to do on the channel too, is build a NAS system. And what that is it's a network attached storage where you have a library of storage drives. You can have up to, say, 5 storage drives. And that's just practically for your cloud-based computing. So for any type of storage that you use, this will be great for anybody out there that uses a ton for, say, video, or wants to use it for, say, like their photos, or any type of serious backup that takes up a lot of space in their PC. You can transfer it all to your NAS system, and that would save you a lot more space, because you can build them up to 50 to 100 terabytes, where you'll have plenty of storage and little to no issues. And you can even hook it up to, if you have a NAS system where you build it to the network, then you can easily use that system on the go instead of using something like Google Drive or any type of cloud program such as iCloud. You don't really have to use it. You can just send everything to your NAS system instead, and you'll have much more storage. You pay for it once, of course, where you would have to buy all the build quality parts for it. Oop. But that would be it. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, I don't know why my lighting does that. I gotta check that out. It seems like every once in a while the fans don't kick on that light, so it just likes to shut off. But I have 4.12 terabytes altogether. It's not hard disk, my bad. It's external storage drive, but it doesn't have mechanical. Oh, okay. So you just have, I gotcha. But either way, as long as if it stays nice and cool, that's the most important part. And is anyone else interested in doing something like that, like a NAS system? Let me see if this fan's kicking on real quick, guys. It looks like, let me force feed this fan real quick. Maybe it's just too hot here or something. Oh no, the fan's not kicking on. All right, so let me see. we go. Hopefully it stays on that time. There we go. Force the fans on there. Because every once in a while, for some reason, those fans don't kick on. I tried dusting it out and it still seems like it doesn't like it. So I probably have to end up getting it serviced or something. These studio lights. But I used storage for my OBS recording since it has 6 terabytes. My SSD just has 1 terabyte. Looking to upgrade to 4 terabyte SSD for the new system. Yeah, definitely go for it. Even, you know what's crazy? I have 4 terabytes on my SSD now. And I have another 2 terabyte NVMe. And my other drive's a 1 terabyte. And I still managed to almost nearly use it all up. So I know I desperately need to get a NAS system. And I have a 320 gigabytes mini hard drive and a Western Digital Blue 1 terabyte hard drive and 1 terabyte of Western Digital Blue Security Edition hard drive for some reason. So what's the difference between something like that? Like the hard drives, it's mostly about the speed, really. That's the only real difference between them. They all do the same function of storage. Now, when it comes to a hard drive, there's going to be 3 different types. You have your regular hard drive, which is going to be on a mechanical disk and a needle. So in order for that to work correctly, that mechanical disk will spin around practically. Eventually, when it does fail, the needle gets loose and breaks apart. That's the only negative thing about hard drives, but you can have a ton of storage. They certainly have built them way better over the years, as you can get up to, I think it's like even up to 20 terabytes, even more, I think, for a single hard drive, compared to something like an NVMe, which is going to be a lot quicker. Now you have SSDs, where SSDs you have either a 2.5-inch internal drive, which looks like just like a square something. Here goes one actually. This one's my external one here. It looks something like this, very small. It's practically like a NVMe built into it. So you'll have something like that, and that's going to be a lot quicker. The write speeds and the read speeds will be much quicker, much more responsive compared to something like a hard disk. Hard disk will read a lot more slower compared to something like that, and NVMe's can read much quicker. This will read, say, maybe about 550 megabits per second, megabytes per second when it comes to it. And when you go and look at something like an NVMe, you can get really high speeds of up to, let's just say, the maximum of PCI Express 5, which is going to be something like up to 12,000 megabytes per second, which is quite insane, or megabits per second, I'm sorry. Yeah, about 12,000 megabits per second, which would be quite insane when it comes to the type of write and read speeds. I keep mixing them up. I think it is megabytes, but yeah, that's a big difference. It's more of the speed difference. Now, if you were to transfer, a perfect example, I can say, just to give you a good general idea, like if you were to transfer, say, like a 10 gigabyte file over to a hard drive, you can expect to get it transferred over to maybe about, just say like the most, about like maybe 20 to 30 minutes maybe. Now if you do it on a 550, like something like this, a 550 megabyte per second drive, you can expect to transfer it a little bit quicker, quite a bit quicker actually. You can expect it, instead of say 15 to 20 minutes, you can expect it to be there within about 5 to 7 minutes. And if you go into an NVMe where it's PCI Express 5, and again, this would all matter depending if they're both PCI Express 5, you can do it within like 2 minutes to transfer the file of 10 gigabytes. So that's what it really is. It's mostly about speed difference. So I've upgraded both my PS4 Pro and Xbox One with SATA 3 drivers, and loading times are insanely fast, as well as installing games. It takes much less time. Absolutely, it does. Now, that's the funny thing. Like back then, that's what they used to be. It can make quite the difference, especially if you're when it comes to installing and everything. You will notice the rate much quicker into something like a SSD for certain. And the crazy part is they also do have hard drives where they're hybrids, but I haven't really looked them up or seen them around as much. I'm pretty sure they're still around though. But the hybrid ones are supposed to be an improvement. I don't know how it is now. Just before, it was kind of something where it wasn't well received. Many people didn't really like it. They said it was more unreliable than an actual hard drive, which is pretty insane. But what's the difference between something like the RX 9070 XT and the RTX 5070? Okay, so the big difference, they both use two different types of technology in there. One uses Blackwell, the other one uses the Navi 4048. And the more of the difference I would say is it has to do with clock speeds, the type of VRAM that it uses. Now you have one, the 5070, where it usually, I think it's like it's around 2 point something gigahertz, I think it is. Let me just pull it up so I can just show you. But I know for certain it has about 12 gigabytes of G7. So the GDDR7 in it is going to be a lot quicker to something like GDDR6. So it's going to be faster on its memory side. And also, they also use something like DLSS versus something like FSR, which is what AMD uses. Every game is also going to be custom for depending on the type of company that they choose to go with, whether if it's AMD or NVIDIA. Now, some companies prefer to go NVIDIA, some companies prefer to go AMD. But mostly overall, the ray tracing would also be quite different. Ray tracing is also more improved when it comes to NVIDIA side. Ray tracing isn't as good when it comes to AMD, but now there isn't as much of a generational gap as there was before. They're very close to each other when it comes to ray tracing. Path tracing is still another story for them. But what's up, Joe Banana? Good to see you. What's up, Lavani? What's up, Mbayu? Good to see you all. Google Seagate Skyhawk Surveillance 1 terabyte hard drive. I certainly will. Let me just show Vibe this, just to give them an idea. Here, for example, is the GB205. That's the type of Blackwell chipset that they use. It also features up to 2.3 megahertz of base clock, 2.5 megahertz of boost clock. So and here you get an idea of the chart of where its performance is at compared to, say, I'm surprised they don't have the RX 9070 up here. Oh, they do, right here. If you compare it to the RX 9070, this is the standard one though. But if you compare it to the RX 9070 XT, let me show you. RX 9070 XT. I could, but I don't like to play games on the Threadripper. I just strictly use it for just my studio type of work. So here you have Navi 48s, has up to the game clock's at 2.4 gigahertz versus a boost clock at 2.97, and you can easily boost this over 3, which is quite insane. Now this is G6 again compared to G7, where this is 16 gigabytes, and the bus width is at 256, so it's very similar. Now it's going to be a little bit slower in the bus transfer speeds because of the memory. But other than that, it's going to be, again, very competitive to something like a 5070, where it's odd. They don't actually list it here, the 5070 on the same list, which is pretty insane. You would think they would put them in the same list here, but they don't. But which do you prefer? The RX 6700 XT or the RTX 5060. If I were to compare the two, I would say the RX between those two, the RX 6700X and 1080p and something between 1440 and sometimes between 1440p. I would say the RTX 5060. I don't really like that one at all either. And the wild part is they're coming out with the RTX 5050 soon. I would say more than likely, I would say the 6600X. I would say go with the XT. I feel that would be the better GPU, to be honest. RTX 5060 is not going to. You're gonna hit its limits. It's not even as good as the 4060. So I would definitely say the 6600 XT would be the better choice. So story time about how you got into PC and PC gaming. You seem really knowledgeable and familiar with all this stuff. Actually, the first time I really got into PC gaming was when I was younger. My father, he wanted to get a PC, and I was familiar with PCs, but I wasn't too familiar with it. And this is, again, I was a lot younger. This was back in the 90s. In fact, when he got this PC, it was a Sony system, which I'll show you. It was one of this. It's called a Sony Vaio, which is something like this. This was the first time I really got into PCs. So it looks something like this, just like this system. And the first time I really got into the hardware side of it, it's pretty funny, was when I started learning about upgrading memory. Like, I realized that the PC would hit its limits. And when I did, I got really into learning about putting it together. So I actually opened it up and installed the RAM the first time doing it. And I even got to the point where I got really interested in swapping out CPUs. And then eventually I really learned about the video card. And when it came to gaming, I realized it was hitting its limits when I was playing games such as like Grand Theft Auto 3. I realized that Grand Theft Auto 3 and Soul Reaver 2 I was playing, those type of games would lag, and I just wondered why. And then I found out that I would need something like a video card in order for it to work correctly. So I told my pop that I needed a video card for school. So he actually ended up buying a video card for me, like a GPU, and it was like NVIDIA 460 or something like that at the time. So he ends up buying the card, and it was an expensive card too back then. It was like, back then a $400 card was like high end. So he got this card, and I installed it, and the first thing I did was like I ended up gaming off of it. But that's like how I really first got into it. And then I realized that there was only so much I can do with a pre-built PC, and that's when I started really learning about putting together a PC, which was taking apart friends' PCs and figuring out GPUs and CPUs and trading CPUs, doing all kinds of things like that. That's how I really first got into PCs. But I remember my hardware. Yes, yeah, RIP, right? That was something. I really do miss those times. Like back when we had the Sony Vaio, when they were actually still good. And the crazy part is I thought they completely stopped making PCs, but they actually still create PCs. They still create laptops and everything. But again, it's like you don't really see them around as much. But it was funny. I was playing games like, what else was I playing? I was playing, I'm trying to think of all the different titles I was playing. But the first games I was really playing on this machine was, I was playing like Doom, and I was playing Duke Nukem, Shadow Warrior. There was another game that was similar to Doom. I can't remember the title of it. But yeah, I loved playing PC games on it. And all the different titles. It was actually like a very expensive PC back then. It was like $3,000 for everything. For the monitor, for that keyboard, for that PC case. But that's how I got into it. And the first graphics card, I'll actually show you what it looked like. It looked like, I think 460. Where's it at? Right here. This is, yep, here it is. Oh, right here. It was this one here. That was my first GPU that I got, was this. And it's funny to think, as it was EVGA. Another game I played too was, I think it was Descent 2. Was another big title that I played back then. Let me see if I can find that actually. And it was like the first game I had where I used a joystick. It was this one here. I don't know if anyone played this before, but this is definitely a throwback here. And it's crazy to think, because back then it looked like really good. Try to get this up in full screen so everyone can see here. Oh wow, they got it in Steam actually. Let me show you it actually. This is what it looked like. It probably looks absolutely horrendous now. Well, not as good. But back then, it was like, these graphics were top notch. And it's, I'm not sure if it came with the joystick, this game, or not. But if anyone else who is familiar with this game, feel free to chime in and let me know. And I used to think this spaceship was like amazing. Let me see if I could get to the part where it's actually showing. This was like the whole intro of the game. No, they don't show the gameplay. The gameplay was like this. What kind of monitor would you recommend for games like COD, Spider-Man, or Rainbow Six Siege? And as a student gamer, would a dual monitor setup be beneficial? Oh, I'd say a dual monitor setup's always beneficial. And I'd say if you are thinking of a dual monitor setup, I would highly recommend just get something like a 1080p monitor would be sufficient. Just a high refresh rate. That's what matters most. Get something that's like at least 180 hertz or like 240 hertz at 1080p, and you could actually get them for a very good price. But I'll definitely share some. Actually, we'll check out Shellshocker and I'll see if I can find you any. Yeah, no problem, Leo. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. You know what you should post is a list of the old games you played back in the day. Oh, that's a great idea, actually. Yeah, certainly. I could definitely make a list of all the different games that I played back in the day. And but those were great times. I remember playing the original Sims on there and everything, and putting the mods, like when I first got into modding and everything. That was something that I would do. I get a 1080p 240 hertz. That's a great recommendation there. Okay, so let's go on Newegg Shellshocker here, and let's take a look. Now, if you're interested in any of these deals, they are in the description box. It's just to take you to the Shellshocker page, and then you could take a pick. Let's go to the clearance side, see if we got some really good deals. Like here goes actually a good one here. A 27-inch 180 hertz monitor for $141.99. This one is made by ASUS. MSI has their version. I wouldn't touch this one though. That one looks like it's going to be trash, like for any type of gaming. Well, not necessarily. It's 100 hertz, but wouldn't recommend it. I would say get something like this. This would definitely be the better one. Yeah, something like this would be the better monitor. Does OLED or IPS panels? Absolutely. I will tell you, it is like night and day. Once you go on OLED, brings life to gaming, I gotta say, because the colors are just so much more vibrant and so much more detailed. You don't really see it on a typical IPS display. It makes a large difference. But again, just don't force yourself to get 1080. Don't force yourself to get OLED if you don't have the money to get OLED yet, because the technology will always drop, especially this upcoming year, I gotta say. IPS is better than OLED in my opinion. OLED gets burn-in. Luckily, from my experience, I have never ran into OLED burn-in. This monitor that I currently have has been going on for about a year and a half. This is actually an OLED monitor here, and this is what I use for my gaming display for the most part, which is the ASUS PG34WCDM. Great monitor, I gotta say. I am expecting to get another one in where we'll do more of a comparison, where it's supposed to have like deeper blacks. Only negative I'd say is it's not going to be a matte display, but I did leave the glossy sticker on there. But IPS OLED gets burn-in and or shiny. I'm not sure what you mean by shiny. But this one's a great one to get if you're going to get a 180 hertz display, and the color accuracy is usually really good when it comes to these type of IPS displays. This is a 1440p monitor, so it's this one's actually a really good deal for one actually. Now this also has, let me see. Oh wow, I wonder what that is back there. You see, and I think that's mostly just to hold it up. Let me see what type of ports. It does feature HDMI 2.0 display port, 1.4. It does have HDR 400, and it does use, and usually when it comes to IPS displays, this is also good. Most of them will be about 99% color gamut. That's just your standard colors when it comes to anything, when it comes to gaming, or when it comes to when you're either watching movies or anything like that. So it's color accurate, and also great if you're doing something like Photoshop or something like that. So I would say this is a great deal for this. So about the recent monitor question, he should look into dual monitors where he can have 1440p mode for cinematic Spider-Man experience and switch to 1080p. Yeah, that's true. That is a great some great input. The screen is too reflective. That's a weird thing about when it comes to OLED. The screen isn't too reflective because a lot of them are matte displays, believe it or not. Flat versus curved monitors for gaming. Now, that all depends. When it comes to gaming, and depends the type of gamer you are. If you enjoy things like simulations, curved monitors are great for that. For example, this one's a 1800R. This one is a 1000R. So if you hear those ratings, it means the curvature of the monitor. In fact, I'll show you a good example of it. If we take a look at the curvature, say of 1800R versus 1000R, this is exactly what it means. Here's a good photo of it. It'll look something like this whenever it decides to load up that photo. There we go. So it would look something like this. I was looking for this one. This one's a good one. So when you see it, 1000R, you have 1500R, you have 1700R, 1800R, and then eventually it goes flat. So flat monitors are great for those who are more of a competitor and more of somebody that is into FPS and things like that. That's great for those. Now those for into different genres of gaming, it's also great to try a curved display because it makes it feel like you're inside the game, which is a really nice immersive experience when it comes to a curved display. But those would be that's the difference I'd say about the two. Corsair also has a monitor where it's called the Flex, where you can actually have the option of bending it yourself to your liking. So, which is this one. It's pretty insane, actually. This here is a flex monitor. And this one here, that's a good example of it. On PC World here, you see someone just bending it, and you see how it has those handles there? You can actually use that to bend the monitor to your will. But I'm just curious how much it would bend. I am very curious about it. It looks like they like it from the most part, but that is something that I can see that will definitely evolve over the course of time. And it's OLED, pretty insane. It's probably expensive, I would imagine. But this was 2023 when this released, this monitor. So I can imagine the technology has certainly improved over the time. Search for X Gaming 1080p IPS monitor. It's the one I have now. Let's see. X Gaming. I'm looking for it now. Oh, here it is. I only see 24-inch on my side. No problem, vibes. I see a 24-inch one on my side. Here goes one. I see something like this. This one's 100 Hertz at 1080p and 99% sRGB. This one got a pretty decent rating too, for the most part. I've never used X Gaming, so I can't speak on them. But this, from the most part, it seems like most people are happy with it. Yeah, that doesn't look like a bad choice. And it's ultra thin. Nice. Looks like a nice monitor. Let's take a look at the reviews, see what everyone says about it out of curiosity here. I always like to go to the reviews out of curiosity here. And right here. Love the size, even though I'm not a gamer. Excellent picture, easy to set up. Really great monitor. Some of these are questionable. The only thing I'm always curious about Amazon is about the ones that aren't verified purchases, and then they put a claim in. Let me go here, and I always go into recent reviews. And this one says really great monitor. Love. See, the problem is when it comes to Amazon reviews, this is the thing you have to be careful of. When you see reviews like this, they can be paid reviews, so you got to be careful of those. Usually the ones that throw in the details are usually the ones that, or show pictures or anything like that. That's how you know they're legit. This one looks more legit. Like, I got this for my son. He is a gamer. He has 2 monitors. He wanted one more. But I bet this is a good monitor, though, for the most part. But yeah, but that's the X Gaming monitor, the one Alex has. So it seems that he recommends it for the most part. But yeah, hopefully everyone's excited to build their PCs. I know it's a perfect day to do it. Beautiful time to do it, especially that we have more GPUs in stock. I am really hoping next week we can do we'll be on the go. Maybe do a trip over to Micro Center and try to pick up some stuff. But it's been really slow on this side for the most part when it comes to PC buying. Everyone's much more on a tighter budget, I gotta say. Which is understandable, especially for how expensive everything is now. But, and I gotta say, everybody whose father's out there, happy Father's Day, or anybody out there that's also has a father that they're going to celebrate Father's Day, make sure to wish them a happy Father's Day, I gotta say. And I am excited too. The fact that, well, I can't really say excited, but I gotta say, when it comes to the RTX 5050, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, which is a bit ridiculous here. They decided to go G6 with it, which is pretty insane. So they are coming out with this card. It sounds like a laptop graphics card, right? But they are coming out with this card to where it's going to have G6, and it's also going to be, I think, 8 gigabytes of G6, I think it is. Maybe 8 gigabytes. I know it's on a 128-bit bus, and yeah, there's no really official, I guess no official memory, but we do know it's going to be G6. And it's supposed to be a lot more competitive against, I guess, AMD side. But I don't know anybody who would want to purchase a 5050. I think they said that it's more likely going to be priced around the $150 range to $200 range. But who would want to purchase an RTX 5050 is the question. It's pretty insane, right? Would anyone out there like to get a 5050? But I do got to say, for the most part, when we do go to Micro Center, I do want to get two things. I do want to get the processor for this motherboard, and also try to get our hands on to something like RX 9060. And more than likely, they'll have it in stock. The good thing is that GPUs are more in stock. There's less problems with availability. Everything seems to be more easier to get. The only exception for one card, I got to say, is running out of stock for some reason, which still surprises me, is the RTX 5090. They have a selection of it. You can get your hands on one. It is still reachable, but it seems that they run low in stock pretty quick on that card for some reason. So when it comes on OPUs, what difference would something like a ASUS GPUs? When it comes to GPUs difference, what would something like an ASUS Prime 5070, normal RTX 5070, or a Gigabyte GeForce? The difference would be about, there's two things. It would be about the fans that they use. I know NVIDIA's Founders Edition uses a blower motor instead of actually having a fan. So it just has the one blower motor on it. Some people complain about it getting too hot because it builds up heat because there's only that one blower motor versus, say, the three fans that something like ASUS and Gigabyte both have, to where it can cool off a lot quicker. You can reach improved overclock temperatures because of it. Overclock temperatures, but you can reach a better overclock because you can cool it off quicker. And also the compatibility when it comes to liquid cooling as well. That's the difference too, is that liquid companies such as, is it EK, I think EKB, one of the liquid companies will prefer you to get the Founders Edition so you can take off the blower motor to install their cooler or their liquid cooler. So that is something, that is one recommendation if you're looking to go that route, if you're looking to for liquid cooling. But if you're looking just to keep it for as for gaming and easy overclocking and better temperatures, it's better to get something like an ASUS or a Gigabyte card. Now the difference between those two is that when it comes to ASUS, you have their software, you have Armory Crates, versus Gigabytes where they have their own software, which is, what's it called again? AORUS. You have their AORUS software that they have. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but you would use that you can use it to control your RGBs. Both the GPUs you can use to control in something like MSI Afterburner or something like EVGA Precision or any other type of software you can use to overclock it. And the technology in the fans would be different. Meaning one could run at a higher RPMs than the other, and the other difference is also on the type of thermal paste and everything that they use in the units. But other than that, it's still going to be the same card. They all share the same NVIDIA card, just a different type of hardware that they use to cool off the GPU, so to say. So for ASUS or Gigabyte would be beneficial. Exactly. That's exactly the reason. ASUS and Gigabyte would be better for cooler temperatures. The Founders Edition is good to, you can run it as a stock card, but most people will take apart the blower motor and then they will install their EKB cooler instead of using the actual blower motor, because all they really need is that chipset. So out of them three, which one would you recommend for gaming, or which one would fit your preference? Now I gotta say, if I compared all three, in all honesty, I would say Gigabyte is the best one out of them, because Gigabyte has less coil whine, less noise, and you won't really. That's the only issue I had with ASUS, was every time I got their GPU cards, it seems like there is some sort of coil whine. That's the only thing that bothers me, which is kind of like a whining sound that you will hear during gaming. But Gigabyte's better for that. They don't have any real coil whine in there. The fan noise is, I would say, about equal. The fan noise is, actually, ASUS is better when it comes to fan noise, I gotta say. But the fan noise doesn't really bother me as much as the coil whine. And but they both are great cards, I gotta say. But if I were to choose between all three, I would say I would go with the Gigabyte version out of all three, because the only reason why I wouldn't take the stock Founders Edition, again, you do reach its limits unless you choose to have any additional cooling features to it. But that is a great question, and I'm glad that you asked. So, I gotta say, I thank everybody for coming in and joining. I have to go take Jonah out to his outing to go meet other dogs. Hopefully he gets along well with them, and wish him luck. Hopefully he gets well. I just hope he has a great time. It's funny, I gave him a bath yesterday. He seemed to enjoy it. Now he's nice and relaxed, and I just hope he's well taken care of when I'm gone. I know everybody does. Thank you so much. Your channel is amazing for PCs, and I've learned a lot. Thanks so much. I really do appreciate the input. And please join the Discord. And anybody who hasn't subscribed, feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And feel free to ask questions. I'm always willing to help. Alex, our mod here, he's also willing to help out anybody who needs any help as well. So thanks again so much for everybody for joining in. I really appreciate everyone hanging out today. And thanks so much for joining in on this channel. Hopefully we see you guys later soon. Yeah, no problem at all, Leo. I appreciate it. And hopefully I see you guys later soon. We will be getting some Stellar Blade in. We'll be playing on the 5090 and the RTX, the RX 9072. So see you guys soon, and hopefully you guys have a great day if I don't see you guys later. And don't forget to join the Discord. Thanks for I do appreciate the award. And I will send out my Discord here for anyone who hasn't joined it. But hopefully I see you guys soon. Thanks so much again.